through life inundated by a constant barrage of external stimuli, social obligations, career demands, and the suffocating weight of expectations. In the midst of this cacophony, you seek meaning, control, and tranquility. But all too often, you find yourself caught in the web of things beyond your grasp. It is here, at this junction of human existence, that the philosophy of Stoicism offers its transformative balm. But to truly grasp its power, you must first descend into its history to understand the crucible from which this philosophy was forged. Stoicism emerged in the fractured cultural landscape of Hellenistic Greece, a time when intellectual life in Athens flourished amidst the ashes of political instability. It was here, in the 4th century BCE, that Zeno of Citium arrived, an exiled merchant whose misfortunes would birth one of the most durable philosophies in human history. Zeno, unlike other philosophers of his time, had experienced the profound vicissitudes of life firsthand. He knew the sting of loss, the disintegration of material wealth, and the existential dread that comes with being unmoored in a world that offers no guarantees. Having lost everything in a shipwreck, Zeno did not wallow in despair. Instead, he sought wisdom from the intellectual titans of his age, immersing himself in the teachings of Socrates, the asceticism of the Cynics, and the metaphysical insights of Heraclitus. From these influences, Zeno developed his own philosophical framework, a practical approach to living virtuously despite life's inherent unpredictability. Teaching in the open marketplace beneath the painted porch, the Stoa Poikile, he attracted a group of followers who shared his vision of a life governed not by emotion but by reason. And thus, Stoicism was born, a philosophy predicated on the belief that while you cannot control external events, you can always control your inner response to them. Zeno's Stoicism was passed down through generations, evolving through the works of philosophers like Cleanthes and Chrysippus, but it was in the hands of 3 towering figures, Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, that Stoicism was refined into a guide for enduring the relentless challenges of life. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor burdened with the weight of ruling an empire, turned to Stoicism to cultivate inner peace amidst the chaos of war and political strife. Now, the question that confronts you is this: how does an ancient philosophy born in the dusty streets of Athens and refined in the halls of Roman power help you? In a world seemingly overwhelmed by uncertainty, social media, political polarization, and personal trials, how can Stoicism equip you to live a life of meaning, resilience, and control? At the heart of Stoicism lies a single transformative principle, the dichotomy of control. The Stoics argued that while the external world is often chaotic and unpredictable, you always retain sovereignty over one thing: your mind. You control your thoughts, your beliefs, your responses. Everything else, your job, your relationships, your reputation, exists beyond your ultimate influence. By internalizing this distinction, you liberate yourself from the tyranny of external circumstances. Think about it. How much of your daily anxiety is rooted in things you cannot control? You agonize over how others perceive you, over the outcome of situations that are already set in motion. The Stoic, however, relinquishes attachment to these outcomes. You learn to focus only on what is within your power, the way you interpret and respond to events rather than the events themselves. Central to the Stoic outlook is the concept of amor fati, the love of fate. You are not merely encouraged to accept the events that befall you, but to embrace them as integral to your growth. To love your fate is to see adversity not as an obstacle to happiness, but as a catalyst for virtue. Every setback becomes an opportunity to practice patience, every insult a moment to cultivate resilience, every loss a chance to reflect on what truly matters. This, of course, is not easy. Life will test you again and again. You will face heartache, disappointment, and hardship. But Stoicism offers you a way through. When you cease to resist what happens, when you stop lamenting the past and fearing the future, you gain access to a profound sense of inner peace. You become imperturbable, like the rock that remains unmoved by the waves crashing against it. The Stoics practiced a technique known as premeditatio malorum, or negative visualization. Unlike the modern emphasis on positive thinking, the Stoics encouraged you to visualize, in vivid detail, the things that could go wrong. This is not an exercise in pessimism, but in preparation. By contemplating potential hardships ahead of time, you become less likely to be caught off guard when adversity strikes. At the core of Stoicism is the virtue of self-discipline. To live a Stoic life is to master your impulses, to govern yourself with reason rather than allowing emotion or whim to dictate your actions. In a world driven by instant gratification, where distractions abound and the pursuit of pleasure often overshadows the pursuit of meaning, the Stoic walks a different path. You are encouraged to develop habits of discipline, moderation, and focus, knowing that only through consistent effort can you achieve mastery over yourself. The Stoics, unlike many modern philosophies, do not promise happiness through indulgence or avoidance of pain. Rather, they assert that true fulfillment comes from aligning your actions with your values, regardless of external circumstances. This requires a commitment to self-control, to cultivating the ability to say no to momentary pleasures that may lead to long-term regret. In a world obsessed with the pursuit of pleasure, you've been conditioned to believe that happiness is something you can buy, consume, or achieve through fleeting experiences. Yet, despite the constant bombardment of pleasure-seeking opportunities, luxury, comfort, entertainment, you often find yourself unfulfilled, anxious, and lost. Why? Pleasure and happiness, two words often conflated but fundamentally different. And this is where Stoicism steps in, offering a radical yet profoundly simple distinction. The Stoics believed that pleasure is external, momentary, and ultimately unreliable. It comes and goes dependent on factors outside your control. Whether it's a delicious meal, a thrilling vacation, or the latest gadget, these pleasures are transient. They provide temporary satisfaction but rarely lead to lasting contentment. Pleasure for the Stoics is not inherently bad, but the pursuit of it as the core of your life's purpose leads to a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. The more you chase after pleasure, the more it eludes you, creating an endless cycle of craving and emptiness. It's like drinking salt water. No matter how much you consume, your thirst only grows stronger. Now, happiness, or more precisely eudaimonia, is something altogether different. It is not based on external pleasures, but on an internal state of being. For the Stoics, true happiness comes from living a life in alignment with virtue. It's about cultivating wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline, regardless of your external circumstances. Happiness, in this context, is a deep, abiding sense of inner peace, grounded in your ability to control your mind, your responses, and your actions. When you pursue pleasure, you place your happiness at the mercy of external forces. You can't control whether life offers you constant comfort or convenience. But when you embrace Stoicism, you learn to find contentment in the process of living virtuously, in facing challenges with resilience, and accepting the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. True happiness is built on the foundation of self-mastery, not indulgence. The Stoics remind you that real happiness isn't about maximizing pleasure. It's about transforming yourself, embracing your circumstances, and seeking growth through adversity. Thank you for taking the time to explore Stoicism with me today. I hope this journey has given you a new perspective on what it means to seek true happiness. Not in fleeting pleasures, but in the strength of your character. Remember, the path to a fulfilling life is within your grasp, waiting for you to walk it.